What? Wait a second, my opponent just sent me a message calling me Kasparov in a provoking way to try and challenge me into the next game. So he really thinks I was just lucky to win that game. Let me teach him a lesson now for real. Yeah, because this is becoming too personal. Let's go. Right, so here's the first game. I'm playing against a 1950 rated opponent. So let me begin with pawn to e4. Okay, there we see pawn to c5, the Sicilian defense. Against this, I like playing bishop c4, which is the Bowdler attack, followed by queen e2, then knight to f3. Given a chance, I play knight c3, intending to go knight d5 in the near future. I don't know what my opponent is going to play next after bishop c4. Maybe pawn to e6. Yep. So there we see pawn to e6. Let me go queen e2, preventing pawn to d5 because I'm just going to take. And there's nothing that black is going to do about that. So knight c6, I predicted that move. The idea is to go knight d4 someday if I don't play knight f3. So okay, knight to f6 by black. So after this, I like pushing my pawn to e5. That's the way to go, because if knight d5 is played by black, I'm just going to take with my light squared bishop, and after pawn takes, I'm going to develop my queen's knight, and then maybe someday I might plant my knight on d5 after knight takes d5. So pawn to e5. I didn't expect that. Pawn to d5 by black. Guess I should just take the knight on f6 so that after d takes c4, I can take on g7 with my pawn. By the way, my pawn is also controlling the d6 square, so it's stopping bishop d6. So just take the knight anyways. So I expect black to take my bishop, after which I'm going to take the g7 pawn. That's obvious. Okay, so dc and fg, double attacking the rook and the bishop. So black must take my pawn. Yep, so bishop takes g7. What should I do next? Maybe develop my queen's knight, or maybe take the pawn on c4 with my queen. What else do I know to prevent pawn to b5? Yep, so queen takes c4. And from here, I'm planning to castle short so that my king can be safe. And I expect to see pawn to b6 by black just to protect his pawn on c4. Black shouldn't castle short because his king side is very weak. I mean, look at that. So pawn to a6 by black, I don't understand this move. Maybe pawn to b5, a4. a4 prevents pawn to b5. But anyways, I should have just taken on c4. So there we see queen e7 by black, protecting the c4 pawn. I think I should develop my queen's knight, knight c3. Yep. What else was I supposed to do? I mean, in the opening stage, you're supposed to be developing your minor pieces. So knight b4 by black, targeting my weak c2 pawn. So I should play knight e4, targeting the c4 pawn and also defending my c2 pawn with my queen. So there's no knight c2 check and winning my rook. So far so good. We're all doing the right thing, except that I'm ahead in development, I guess. And what is that? Bishop d7 allows me to take the free pawn on c5. But next, I'm gonna take the knight if black is not careful. So rook c8 is what I see. Let's see what black is going to do. Castle short, that's a very weird move. Now I can take the free knight. This is what I've been talking about, you guys. One major problem with most beginners and intermediate level players is lack of board vision. They tend to forget where their pieces are in the long run, which is a very big issue, and so we capitalize on that. Also, speaking of tactics, knight takes a6 is a possibility here because my queen is defended by my knight and I'm intending to capture the queen on e7. Right, so black just played queen f6. Let me go knight c7 so that I can put my knight on b5. Or let me just play knight c5 directly instead of going knight c7 first, because if bishop takes f3, I'm going to take back with my pawn and put my rook on g1, so I have no problems at all. So knight c5 first. I just want to find a way of coordinating my knights. So queen takes f3. Now I should play rook g1, so pinning the bishop to the king. Now black's bishop on g7 can't move, and there we see king h8 by black. What does that mean? I need to be very careful with that bishop. Maybe I should play something like rook takes g7 in the near future. Yeah, I can sacrifice my rook actually. But first, pawn to d3 makes a lot of sense here, because I'm gonna pave way for my dark squared bishop so that it can join the party. And I'm not even worried about my pawn on b2. I mean, if I develop my dark squad bishop on e3, because my queen is guarding the b2 pawn, so I'm very safe even if I play bishop e3. But I'm still thinking of what else to do, just in case black plays something else. This is how you're supposed to play chess. So I just played pawn to d3, waiting for black to make a move, and time is still getting low and lower. Let's see what black is going to play anyways. Okay, there we see bishop f6, bishop f6. I think this is a wrong move because it allows me to play knight d7, which double attacks the rook and the bishop. And maybe after capturing the bishop, I'll play something like bishop d2 and put my dark squad bishop on c3, pinning the queen to the king. That's very bad. So double attacking the rook and the bishop. Let's see what black is going to do now. Bishop d2 is on the way, and I'm gonna pin the queen to the king if black is not careful. So there we see bishop h4. Another blunder by black, another example of lack of proper board vision, you guys. This is a very serious issue with most beginners. Don't even laugh at my opponent, please, because you also do these things in your own games. You forget where your pieces are sitting. You don't see the entire board. You just play what you think is right for you. You don't see your opponent's moves. You only focus on your plans. Before making any move, you guys, you need to be asking yourselves, what was my opponent's last move and what was their intention? Another advice I can give to improve your board vision is to solve a lot of tactics and chess puzzles. Don't just study your gambits and traps. Chess is so dynamic, you need to get used to these things. Train your eyeballs in a professional way, right? So against the Sicilian, I played the Bowdler attack with bishop c4 and queen e2 to prevent pawn to d5, and after knight to c6, I played knight f3 to prevent knight d5 by black, and after knight f6, noticing this attack, I remembered to push my pawn to e5, intending to chase the knight from f6, but after pawn to d5, I just captured the knight, and after pawn takes, I thought this was going to be easy because what? Wait a second, my opponent just sent me a message calling me Kasparov in a provoking way to try and challenge me into the next game. So he really thinks I was just lucky to win that game. Let me teach him a lesson now for real. Yeah, because this is becoming too personal. Let's go. Game 2, now playing as black. d4 by white. So let me go knight to f6. I just want to play the Budapest. Okay, so bishop g5, no more Budapest. Let me go pawn to c6. If pawn to e3, I'm gonna play. Wow, I thought I was going to win a free bishop, but it seems like my opponent knew what he was doing. So it's now playing the Trompowsky attack. I caught that very late, but I'm going to do something about this. So now this has become too personal, you guys. It's very interesting to watch. Let's see what my opponent is going to do with his Trompowsky attack. So queen b3. I think let me just take the pawn to simplify the game, or play queen c7, but you know, black is going to take. Or let me just go queen c7 because I have queen c1 check. Yep. So I just removed that. If pawn takes, I'm going to take back with my pawn and go queen c1 check and just make white lose his right to castle. So there we see knight e2 by white, you know, preventing queen c1 check after pawn takes and c takes d5. So I need to do something here. Maybe let me just take the pawn on c4 to simplify the game. Or you know what? Let me just play bishop d6 to allow c takes d5 happen, and then, you know, take back with my c. Okay, now that's what I'm talking about. Pawn to c5 by white is not a good move. First of all, I can just take on h2, but let me just retreat my bishop. Because pawn to c5 just closed the position for me, which is every black player's hope. Because as black, you have limited options and limited chances to attack in the opening stage. So you want the position to be closed. There we see an opposite side castling, but I am way much ahead in development. And so my attack is going to come very quickly. And just like I explained in my previous video, what I'm thinking about at this stage of the game are clearance sacrifices, positional sacrifices, because these are the minor differences between intermediate level players and strong players. Even though I'm not calling myself a strong player for that reason, just trying to make a point, I'm only thinking about sacrificial moves, where to deliver a clearance sacrifice or a positional sacrifice. You should watch my previous video if you want to understand what I'm talking about. That's how strong players build their middle game plans. So I just played bishop d7 in an effort to play pawn to c5 next, but I have queen d6 and pawn to c5 in the near future. So let me just go. The problem is, if I play pawn to c5, white is going to take my pawn on d5. It's not protected, so I have to play queen b7 first before playing pawn to c5. Okay, so white plays queen c2. Knight a6 looks logical, preparing to go knight b4 first. Okay, pawn to a3 by white, rook b8. What is that? Pawn to g5 is just a free pawn. Once again, maybe my opponent is trying to do a little clearance sacrifice, but that doesn't work because I can just take the h pawn as well. I mean, my king side is not that weak. Or maybe just wait for white to take my g pawn, rook b3, because I tend to double up my rooks to create a little battery along the b file. I mean, I should be careful of that. So pawn to g6 to prevent queen takes h7 checkmate. Next, I'm going to take the pawn on g5, and I also have bishop f5 to threaten the queen on c2. By the way, white just played knight f4. Maybe white is planning to go pawn to e4. So bishop f5. If pawn to e4, I'm gonna take the knight on f4. So there we see queen e2. I think I can already see a checkmate on b1 if white is not careful. So something like rook takes c3 and then mate on b1. So let me play rook f h8. Yeah, to double up my rooks. And oh, that's what I'm talking about. You see, there we finally have a clearance sacrifice on c3. So rook takes is the best move in this position. How do I know? Because I've seen a similar chess puzzle before, which is why we encourage you guys to solve chess puzzles and tactics, because some of these things we only see them in chess puzzles. I know chess puzzles are boring, nobody wants to solve those things, but it helps to enhance your board vision and just to be familiar with many positions in chess. So this is another example of a clearance sacrifice which I presented in my previous video, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching this. And if you did, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you are new, because that's what encourages me to keep on making more wonderful videos just like this one. And hope to see you soon in my next video. Until next time, bye bye.